Today we're going to go over how to set up your HUD in your viewport so that you can view your polygon count and other information you may want to know about your models and your scene. So let's go ahead and jump into Cinema 4D and get started. You'll see that I'm using the Sandbox I had 3D modeled as an example for this project, and it's based on a sandbox that was sold at Menards, and I looked up the dimensions on their website and used that as inspiration in order to 3D model this. It was for a project, and I wanted to use something that was realistic, that could exist in the real world, that my client could actually go ahead and purchase. And it was a really fun project to visualize a playground for a school, and I got the opportunity to do that. So just to show you the basics of how the scene was made, I used this flat plane here for the sand. I'll turn on the lines here, and I gave it a pretty good amount of segments and polygons just so that when I rendered it, we'd get this really nice detailed sand. So the texture is doing 99% of the work. It's making that illusion of the ripples in the sand and that detailing. But none of that actually needed to be 3D modeled into the sand itself. I relied fully on the texture to do that. Otherwise, the sand is a flat plane. As far as this wooden portion goes, the way that I built that real quick is if I turn off this generator here and solo it, this is our base mesh. And then all I went ahead and did after I 3D modeled this is I added in this Thicken Generator. And I'll leave a link to the tutorial on the Thicken Generator in case if that's something you're interested in learning more about. But that basically just added thickness. And then I relied mainly on the texture again to give that detailing of the wood on the sandbox itself. I'll go ahead and unhide everything. So right now we actually do have a default HUD that comes with Cinema 4D, and it's very light, so it's hard to see. So I think that's the first thing that I want to go over is how to adjust the color of your HUD so that you can see it when you work on it, because this is really difficult to see. So under mode, we want to go into our view settings. And this has a lot of various settings for your viewport, but today we're going to focus mainly on this tab down here called HUD. Now let's scroll down so we can adjust the colors of our HUD so that's a little bit easier to see. You'll see that our background color is black for our elements, but the opacity is all the way down to 30%. So I'm going to make this fully opaque and move this up to 100%. And now you can see these a little bit more clearly. You can see we have our default camera perspective, our tool listed in our HUD, view transform scene. So these are here in order to give you more information about your scene. So I actually like to use these a lot for if I'm 3D modeling something and polygon count is really important. And I just want to be wary of the polygon count of a model while I'm working. I'll like to add in information like that, but you can adjust the color of these to anything you'd like that you feel will show up well. Like I could choose this dark red color. I'm going to leave it on black for right now because I think that works for what we're doing here today. You can adjust the color of your text. So again, I could make it something else like that. I'm going to put it back on white because I feel like that's pretty visible. You can also adjust the opacity of your text in your HUD, so you can make it less opaque. So there's all these options here. When we have the selected color, that's literally for when you are selecting an element in your HUD. We'll get into that in a little bit more in a moment. Always active will allow you to click on the elements within your HUD without activating them with the Alt button or the Control button. So if you hit Control, you can actually move these around. If you hit Alt, you can adjust these also, but I'll show you that in a moment. Let's go through this different information that you can display. You can display your camera, so you can see that showing up here at the top. You can display your projection, that's your camera perspective. Are you looking at everything parallel from the front view? Are you looking at it in perspective view? We have that listed over here. Your frame. So I'm going to turn on the frame. You'll see our frame is listed here. I'm going to move it up by holding Control. If I hit Alt, I can adjust what frame we're on this way. And you'll also see this is our selection color. When I'm adjusting the frame and selecting those settings, it is turning this purple-like color. That color is coming from our selected color down here. So if I were to adjust that to, let's say, neon yellow, and then go through the same process, you'll see now when I select and adjust the frame, it is yellow. So you can choose that. Always active will allow you to always be able to click on these elements and adjust them from your HUD within your scene. If you turn this off, you would need to hold Alt in order to activate it. You couldn't just click on it and activate it that way. So that's just something to keep in mind for when you are working. Now we have some other things you can add in here. If you have markers within your scene, you'll be able to see them if you turn this on. So right now it just says markers. If you have a root object that you would like listed here, you can turn this on. And by the way, if you turn something on and you're not seeing it show up in here, there's a couple ways you can handle that. You can drag and drop the object into your viewport like that. I'll move this up here. You can also, let's find another one to show another way of adding it in. So if I add in total objects, you can see that's actually showing up here. I'm going to move that down. We can choose to show total points, total edges, total polygons. And you'll notice that even though we have total points listed, we aren't seeing it. So I'm actually going to right click on this and say add to HUD. And now you'll see we get this tool here called perspective total points. If I turn that on, if I turn this on, you'll see that it turns yellow. It also checks on that box there. So if you want to see your total points, you actually need to be in point mode, and then you can see your total points in here. So that's just something to keep in mind, and then you can turn it on and off this with this button here. But to see that actually listed here, you need your points. You need your point mode on, just so that that makes a little bit more sense to you. I'm going to go back into mode and our view settings in the HUD. And the same goes for total edges, total polygons. You can turn these on and off and add this control to your scene. Just keep in mind that you need to be in the specific mode in order to see it. I'll add in total polygons. I'll move this up here. So again, if I want to see the total polygons, I need to be in polygon mode. And now I can see the total polys as well as the n-gons. If you'd like your view settings to stay open, you can also hit this lock right here and it'll lock that element in place. We have total n-gons, we have viewport statistics, so we can add that into our scene. We have current takes, so if you're working with takes within your scene, you can turn that on. You can choose to display your active tool. Right now we have our move selected. Your view transform, you can see that's down here. Camera distance, you can turn that on. You can see that's the distance. Frames per second. So now you can see the average amount of frames you're able to view per second in your scene. Frame time. object name you can show, parent object, selected objects. You can choose to show selected points, selected edges, selected polygons. So if you just want to see the number of polygons you have in one part of your model or something like that, you could use selected polygons and just turn on that and have those selected, and then you can see how many there are. Selected N-gon sculpt statistics, you can also view that. Render settings, so you can see which render settings we're using inside of here. You can create new ones in here if you would so wish. Setting up your HUD inside of Cinema 4D is a really helpful tool. If you would like more learning resources, you can check out my website, Ambient 3D Animations, where I have additional resources like a newsletter, a blog. If you'd like to sign up for a live Q&A or have one-on-one coaching, that's all available there to you. And thank you so much for being here on Ambient 3D Animations.